Welcome to the latest episode of the Basic Income Show. I'm your host, Scott Santens, and I'm here with my co-hosts and good friends, Josh Worth and Conrad Shaw. And this is a show where we talk about the latest in basic income stuff. So this week, there's just like a lot of pilots to cover. Like, I don't know, like it's just a whole slew of recent studies came out.
You say that like that's not what we do every week.
I feel like, we'll cover like one, maybe, or two. Like this
It's
is
like
going to be
It's like our
a whole
log
study
line.
show.
Scott and crew talk about basic income pilots.
Just got to make sure everybody
Somebody's
knows.
got to do it.
Well, people
Yeah.
need to know about your new article too, because that kind of covers a bunch of it.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, reporting on my own news feels like somehow, like, I don't know, cheating.
You
the
can just
news,
link it.
coming
Just
up with
say you wrote a
content.
big article about all the bullshit spin stuff that's been going on, and it's linked in the description. I'm doing it
All
for
right.
you right now. It's going to
Yeah.
be linked in the description. Scott will
That's
put
what
it
I
there.
did.
And yeah, for all those not watching live, which is almost all of you.
Yeah, and if you're, subscribed to our channel, which you should be, then you also can see that and watch the video, because I also did a video version of the article too.
But I'm actually like kind of grateful for this article because it was a pain in the ass to write, I can tell.
Yeah.
It's long and detailed and covers all of the sides of this thing, but it's like the thing that I want to share when someone pops up in my feed and is like, well, you saw it failed with the OpenAI one. And like, no, I don't want to like be in a 3-hour, like, well, they're going to be like source. And I'm going to be like, I don't have time for this. But now I can just link your article to all of that. Like if they're talking about OpenAI or the Denver results or whatever, be like, here you go, read this thing. If you actually want to know, otherwise you're just going to waste my time anyway. So, Twitter person.
Yeah, that was the whole purpose of writing it, was like not only covering those three, but yeah, it should be evergreen, in which case, if some other pilot comes out and people are like, oh, this is negative, and, okay, well, ask these questions about this pilot, like explore this further. If you understand it, then you can actually contextualize it.
If they do come out with a thing about what about Finland, there is another article that Scott wrote about Finland that I also share for such reasons. Yeah, this one's more comprehensive in general about how to look at pilots.
Finland actually, one of the things that we'll cover today is Finland actually came out, well, there's another study that came out of Finland about their pilot. So we actually know a little bit more that we didn't know before.
Like about how it failed in Finland?
No, they looked at like health impacts.
Tiago wants us to talk about Comingle and Comingle. All right, Comingle fan.
Right on.
We're still pushing along. We're still like early beta testing and trying to get something out to the public in 2026. So nothing incredibly new to report today other than that we're still working on it. Right, Josh? Do you have anything you want to say about
That
Comingle?
is correct. There is a lot of work to be done, and it's being done. And we're sort of managing a very small team of people that are piecing together all of the pieces. Yeah, but things are moving forward very nicely. So yeah.
And I shared what Vaughn in the chat shared with us too, about just BN will be hosting a 2-day UBI event on the 24th and 25th of October in the Philippines, and the event will be in the University of the Philippines. So yeah, thanks for sharing that news with us, chat. So,
also, as a general note, like I think the amount of talking that we do about a work in progress, I just don't like doing that personally. Like I want to be able to, I will feel once we have something that we're like all able to look at together, then I will be happy to just blab on forever about like what we've done. But while things are in progress, I feel like kind of jinxing things. So I appreciate everybody's
really
patience
painful
until we get to that point.
It's also really painful to just like kind of get people's hopes up over and just take way longer than everyone hopes that you'll take. So then it's like, oh, you said this 3 years ago. It's like, yeah, we've been working on it for 5 years. So, we
are definitely more impatient than you are. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And like, I've had people come up and be like, oh, I just assumed you guys were, con artists or something. But then they like saw a presentation this year and it's like, I guess you're just not doing it the usual tech way, which is get a ton of money from venture capitalists, which is true. That's not what we're doing. I do have some fun news, just as a teaser for Bootstraps. I'm really excited about like the pace it's picking up right now, even though I have to raise a bunch of money to keep it going. We just submitted for Sundance. We're getting ready to submit for South by Southwest. All these things happen early next year, in January and March. And we have a new pilot episode, like version, 95. But it was always going to be the hardest to crack. Like, it has to introduce the entire concept of everything and of the series of UBI, of the project, the experiment, and introduce all of the participants in this. Basically, Bootstraps is a thing where we filmed a bunch of people getting basic income for several years. So there's a lot we had to figure out for episode 1. And it finally feels like it's working. And I'm like excitedly sharing it around with like potential partners and things, but also putting it into these submissions. Yeah, it finally feels like we're delivering something, even though none of you get to see it yet. It feels like we kind of like broke the code, or cracked the code.
I did get to see it, and yeah, it's great. Like it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Josh hated it, but Josh doesn't know anything.
It was great.
Don't listen to Josh.
Yes.
No. It is. So all the people who have been like on Team Bootstraps, like some people have been waiting for Comingle, like Tiago. Some people like Itza and Scott just as a person. Some people are like, what about Bootstraps? So there's your Bootstraps news. It's still happening also. And Bootstraps is the one that's the most painful because we've been talking about it since 2016. Like, we've been working on this project. So by the time this is out there and touring the country, it will have been a decade of our lives, like full time on it. It is really nice to have something that feels ready to start sharing with people soon.
Yeah. Talk about, wanting to finally get something done and out there. Jeez, almost 10 years.
We're at my favorite part of like what I've always imagined wanting to do. There's so many things to cobble together to get to the point where we're at now, where we're starting to reach out to musicians. Music has always been really important to me in filmmaking and storytelling, and also just in life. Like, I feel like musicians are the greatest magicians in the world. And now we have this idea for each of our 11 stories. We'll have one musical artist, or maybe two if there's like two in the couple, but basically representing their voice, like a Peter and the Wolf thing. And for years, it's just been this idea, that like, I hope we really get to do this. And now we're getting to finally like reach out to famous musicians and have their managers tell us to, leave them alone and try to come up with other ways to reach out to them. But, I think we just talked to someone today about who's going to like help us like do all this musician outreach. And that's when it gets really fun. We're like starting to put in animations and playful like metaphor, and now putting in the music. That's when like the stories that are already compelling can get like jazzed up with some more artsiness, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see just all the different musicians that sign up to be part of it. All right, so I guess let's start off with this video, some local coverage in Colorado of Boulder's $500 a month pilot. And so, here's
tonight we have the early results of a nearly 2-year project in Boulder that helped 200 low-income households make ends meet. The project, Elevate Boulder, gave monthly payments funded by the American Rescue Plan. In a final report, more participants say they can more easily pay for basic needs, receive more education, and have stronger mental and physical health. But there were some costs still too high to cover, like childcare. Your reporter in Boulder, Sarah Horbakowitz, shares how the money impacted the community.
These photos are all just some examples of how a guaranteed income of $500 a month helped people in Boulder change their lives. Now they're sharing their stories.
I see your smile there. Yeah, I'm actually playing an original called La Luna.
Andy Masterpiece says he's playing that guitar thanks to the Elevate Boulder project, a city program that's been giving a few $100s a month to 200 people in Boulder with low income.
There's financial support, there's food support, there's community support. And so I just feel like I'm meant to be here. And this is one of the things that helps me makes my dreams come true.
The money didn't have restrictions, didn't require receipts, but still helped someone get their daughter braces, another person start growing healthier food, and another pay for unexpected vet bills.
This is really stressful. The total lack of job security.
These are some of those people sharing their story on Sunday to a nearly full theater at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder.
It was not easy to flow with friends without money.
This pilot program started in 2023 and ends in December, but for some, it's leaving a lasting impact.
The first thing that I purchased with the gift was really just going to the grocery store and picking everything that I needed without having to decide. And it's not like I was buying lobster tails, honey. I was just, I could get, the Greek yogurt.
Elizabeth Crow helps run the program as Boulder's Deputy Director for Housing and Human Services.
We have some participants who've established savings for the first time in their life.
With many positives, she says there's still work to be done.
There are people who've shared that they have not had as dramatic savings or been able to get ahead as much as they want. That's really a statement about how much it costs to live here.
But Elevate Boulder leaders also hope the program has made a statement about what it means to care for your community.
That gesture, to me, is saying, we want you to be here. You're part of our community.
A lot of the money from this program came from COVID-era funding, which doesn't necessarily exist anymore. Now, Elevate Boulder says they're relying on the community and donations to hopefully bring it back in 2027. Reporting in Boulder, Sarah Horbakowitz, covering Colorado First.
I really like how she pointed out that it made her feel like we want you to be here. Like, I really like that.
Yeah, that was a big one to me. That's kind of, in general, I feel like a lot of destructive or antisocial behavior comes from the feeling. It is an element of reciprocity. You feel like if your community, your society is like, you're on your own, prove yourself, then you're like, well, fuck you. Like, I remember moving to New York as a sort of a sheltered Colorado boy, and like someone walking down the block and like throwing litter on the street when you're like 10 feet from a trash can at any moment. I was like, how could they ever do that? Don't they care about the environment? And it's like, and then one day it clicked. It's like, this community is telling them they don't matter. And so it's like a rebellion, and like I lived in a lot of, poorer neighborhoods for a while, and, certain things you don't see disrespected like that as much. And these are like the church, like the things that take care of their community and say, I want you here, you belong, you're special, whatever. Like, I have expectations of you, and we want to support you. Those are the things that people protect. But the things that are like, tough shit, life is hard, compete for your spot, they don't earn any loyalty or love.
Yeah, we don't want you to be here unless, it's like, you have to meet our requirements, you have to pass our tests, and then maybe we want you to be here, but otherwise we don't. So it's a really bad default setting.
So imagine if that becomes a universalist thing. You live in a world where from the very beginning, the entire society is saying, we want you here, we believe in you, we're going to invest in you, we have expectations of you. It's like having, like growing up in a supportive household, like that wants you to go as far as you can, as opposed to like, I don't know, in that metaphor, you have to sleep in a closet at night without food until you start getting straight A's or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
It's
not
like
a great way to like amplify performance.
Yeah, it's like, if you're going to be a good parent, one of the keys is unconditional love. And if you're going to be a bad parent, it's going to be conditional love. And how do you even call that really love, too, if it's conditional? It's like, I don't love you unless you like clean up your room, get a good job, get good grades. Like, it doesn't seem to make sense. If you love your kid, then you support them and you want them to go as far as they can. But it also doesn't matter, It's like, whatever's best for you.
Yeah, it's all tied to this idea of reciprocity too, where a lot of people just have a high value system around reciprocity, but they have the order of operations backwards. They're like, if you prove yourself, if you do good, then society will reward that, which, I mean,
that's not happening.
It often falls apart. It's not even happening.
Yeah.
But the first step in reciprocity in a society and citizen relationship has to come from society. You have to like be introduced into a society that takes that first step. I mean, that's how it works better anyway. If like the society around you sort of absorbs you and encourages you and supports you, then you rise to the expectations to pay that back. But expecting the individuals to all do it on their own in the hopes that society will then reward it is just backwards. It's just not the way to do it.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't mean there aren't tons of people trying to like be the ones to like put the positive force out there in the world, and the fact that you then get nothing back except for like more bills and more expensive
Yeah.
housing and like groceries you can't afford. Like at a certain point, you're like, I'm not getting anything out of it. Why should I continue to like extend kindness to the rest of the world? I think, yeah, that's the big thing that I think we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, there's also the mind of it for people is, I'm cussing a lot this time. Sorry, everybody. The mind bending situation here is this sort of sleight of hand of the edge cases. Like you can point to people who climbed out of the ghetto with the hard work, right? You can point to the people who overcame, the people who bootstrapped their business together. All of this, you can point to it happening. The people who did take that very bold first step to do a lot for their community, and then they succeeded wildly. And that sort of, in that attention, like just like looking at a GoFundMe where, oh, look at this moving story, and here's a homeless person that now got $250,000 outpouring of love for now they own a house and they're fine. And it's ignoring the other 99% of people who got ignored by that sort of, popularity test / algorithm, which is like the same with all the people who didn't manage to bootstrap their business or never took the shot or didn't manage to get out of a situation of poverty. It's like, hey, look over here, someone did, so it must be possible. Therefore, it must be possible for everybody. But it's ignoring or just completely in denial that that's not possible for everyone to do. Like, not everyone can start a business. Some of us have to like work for businesses. Some of us have to be consumers. Some of us have to stay home. Some of us have to take care of our parents. There's not room for everyone to like follow that path you point to.
Yeah, you could do like a whole docu-series that's kind of like Bootstraps in a way, but instead of there being like a basic income there, you're just following people who are like working their asses off and doing everything they're supposed to do. And guess what? Like none of that good stuff is happening still.
Well, I mean, that's like the alternate universe Bootstraps. That's the thing that made Bootstraps tolerable to work on for 10 years, is that we chose to do the good version of the alternate universe rather than the reality of today, where most documentaries, like people can get exhausted by documentaries, including the people making them, because you go around and film and share like how shitty something is, how terrible something in the world is. And it's just like a constant gut punch, and you're outraged and you're sad, whatever. And you're like, well, what can I do about it? And eventually you numb to it. And you're like, I don't want to watch documentaries. They just make me sad. So we picked something. I was like, well, what if, like every single story in our documentary could have been its own sad documentary. But through the lens of this alternate universe of like, what if UBI, they all became much more sort of joyous and inspiring. The characters themselves were unleashed from a lot of what was holding them back. Spoilers, sorry.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Gee. Okay, more about the Boulder thing. So we watched the video about that, but just so people know like more of the details. Again, this was $500 per month, and this was for 2 years to 200 households. And the households are between 30% to 60% of the median income for Boulder. So, it wasn't the absolute poorest. It was kind of more towards the middle. Let's see, 170 people took part in the evaluation. Here's the just the key takeaways. So, financial stability. Participants reported that before the pilot, they regularly struggled to pay for basic needs. The number of basic needs that participants found difficult to afford reduced significantly from baseline to 8-month follow-up and remained similarly low through 20 months. Housing food security, there was a significant reduction of food insecurity 8 months into Elevate Boulder, and this level was sustained at 20 months. Affordability of food remained a leading pressure on households, reflecting a deeper need. Participants were able to keep up with rents and mortgages, as well as utility expenses at 8 and 20 months. Participants reported a significant drop in the chance of a housing-related issue from baseline to 8th month follow-up. Mental and physical health, there was a significant decrease in participants reported psychological distress from enrollment to 8 months, and this reduction was sustained at 20 months. A large majority, 68.7%, reported that their general health was better at the end of Elevate Boulder. compared to when they enrolled. In employment, no negative impact on employment was found. There was no change in employment status for 2/3 of participants during Elevate Boulder, and approximately 1/3 of participants reported pursuing further training or education, and most attributed that decision to Elevate Boulder.
Okay, but
What
did
about
they measure the
brainwaves?
brainwaves?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
we
Yeah.
need to
were there
know.
any 3-year-olds who had brainwave tests and did those?
So
You
the
know,
thing, just to stress too, this was happened in fall 2023. So as I covered in that recent, big article and the last video, was just pointing out that when it came to the pandemic, that served as a confound in multiple experiments, depending on like the details of those experiments, what they were looking for and stuff. So this is outside that. So I think this is also one of the reasons why you can find like a significant improvement in mental health versus like during the pandemic, where that was harder to see outside of like some kind of saturation experiment. Okay, we'll go from here to do another one. This is Alameda. This is Rise Up Alameda.
this is also in Colorado.
No, Alameda is in California.
I feel like there's a place that sounds like that in Colorado. There might be an Alameda in Colorado. Anyway, California.
Yeah. Rise Up Alameda is a guaranteed income pilot project providing 150 residents with an unconditional cash payment of $1,000 per month over the course of 24 months. So they must be Alameda residents 18 and older with annual incomes no greater than 50% of the median income. So it's slightly less than the previous experiment we're talking about. They had a control group of 180, and this is from the first year of the program. So it's actually not hasn't finished yet. So this is like halfway through this 2-year program. And they found improvements in financial well-being, mental health, and sense of community. No negative effect on employment. So here's the key takeaways. Financial well-being, Rise Up recipients showed improvements in their financial stability and resilience. They were more likely than the control group to be able to handle a $400 emergency, and were nearly twice as likely to have $500 more saved. Only 15% of recipients said they were going into debt compared to 42% of the control group. That's a pretty big difference. Rise Up participants were also more likely to have money left over at the end of each month, 13% versus the control group. Mental health key takeaways. Recipients reported improved mental health across a variety of measures, lower stress, increased hopefulness, improved sense of mattering, and more community engagement. These differences were statistically significant compared to the control group. Recipients also reported less chaotic home environments than the control group. And when it comes to sense of community, recipients were 10 percentage points more likely to be involved in community activities, including PTAs and parent groups, religious and social clubs, professional associations, and more. And recipients demonstrated statistically significant improvements in emotional connection, group membership, and fulfillment of needs, and a marginally significant improvement in community influence. This indicates that Rise Up help people feel more connected to their community. So, yeah, again, this found significant mental health improvements. And, that's what people will say, like either if you point at the pandemic stuff, you point to like baby's first years, you point to Sam Altman's pilot, and people go, oh, there's no mental health improvement. So therefore, how disappointing. Again, this was outside the pandemic as well, just like the last one. Both found mental health improvements. So again, like really depends on the details of these pilots.
Do you think we're getting a lot of results right now because of some scheduling surrounding like the American Rescue Plan? Like the funds have, like we're somehow tied to a timeline there?
Yeah. Like I don't know the specifics of the timeline. I just know that like when that money went out there, some cities immediately started doing this. And then, some cities were just trying to figure out what to do. And then the deadline approached where they needed to spend the money or else lose it. And that's when a whole lot of other, pilots started going to, because that was towards the end. So I don't know, it may be the timing wise where we're looking at the result of that, basically.
So in a way, the pandemic is having an influence on this. Like it's not a direct influence, but it's still definitely a factor.
Yeah, in regards to the funding of them.
Yeah, the funding was also kind of intended as a way to like recover. So it's actually being looked at in this sort of recovery process. I don't know. I think that as the studies do stand on their own very well, but like that, there's still that factor to consider when you're looking at what the real results are. Even though it's like maybe not conscious in people's minds, I think we're still feeling the effects of
Yeah,
the pandemic.
yeah, I think like at that time, it was more about that they just had this money to spend, and sure, the reason for that money was to like build back better, to come back from all this and make sure that cities invested in stuff. But that situation wasn't happening then. That was like really hurting people's mental health, and we also had already gone past the peak inflation, which was also causing a lot of stress and stuff for people as well. So when it comes to mental health stuff, I think it's fair to look at pilots that happened, after 2023 or 2023 and beyond, as having, more kind of clean results for mental health as being outside the pandemic.
Do we want to get into addressing this last comment? I know we've done it several times, but I think it's been a while. Like, have you guys taken a serious view on using cryptos and Bitcoin to fund UBI? I have my stuff that I bring back about it.
Yeah. I don't know. We could cover that right now, but I feel it
I think
might
just in a
derail
broad
things a bit.
strokes. Just in a broad
But
strokes.
just quick answer.
Someday, if the crypto is actually working and it's a real like trustworthy coin, but like when we set up a pilot for Bootstraps, we got a homeless person, his first bank account, and we had several tech non-savvy people, and like this idea that we're going to give them Bitcoin or Ethereum or something, and he's going to be able to go like do his laundry is just, the technology is not there yet. It's not widely accepted enough. It's not useful enough. And for the time being, cash is king. And that's why we did it for Bootstraps and Cash. That's why we're starting Comingle and Cash. And the ungenerous side of me, when like people have told me very strongly in the past that this has to be done with a crypto, is it tells me that they're willing to wait another 10, 15, 20 years for it to happen. And the people who need it now, that's an acceptable loss, right? It comes from a place of privilege or just like not really considering. So for now,
we did consider it as part of, maybe this is a better way for Comingle to work like real early on. And it was like, crypto is a better way of keeping track of currency. Like, it is more sophisticated and you can track the data behind it, and it moves way faster than like actual like money through the banking system, and you can bypass the banking system. There's all kinds of like great reasons like why it actually as a form of currency is better, but that form of currency doesn't represent anything useful at this point, like besides just speculation. All right. So like if we get to a point where like that, a crypto coin, a Bitcoin is like, you can redeem that at the grocery store and buy groceries and feed yourself, then yeah, that's great. But it's just not there yet.
I would also add that, I mean, what you were looking at too was like stable coins make sense as a potential option for something like
Right.
Comingle. Like, that's the only thing. When it comes to Bitcoin, especially, I don't think it makes any sense at all, because Bitcoin is very much an asset class. Like, people hold on to Bitcoin. And then it's also, I think it's unfair. If you can, like, let's assume that Bitcoin, goes up to like 1 million or something, like, at some point. And you've got your people that need it immediately. So, like, you've got people who actually absolutely have to use it. They have no other choice. They can't sit on it, and they're going to use it now. And those are like the people I would think that we want to help the most, are those like who absolutely need it now. And then the people who don't need it, you just get to sit on it. And then what, like their wealth grows, another 10x or whatever, because they didn't need it. So that kind of solution, I think, only furthers inequality instead of what we're trying to do, which is reduce inequality. I just don't see using any kind of crypto that's an asset class as a currency. I think they fail at being currencies that you want to spend and you want people to spend. There can be certain ones, but again,
yeah,
anything can happen.
the choice we made is like, for now, we're gonna find the rules and the flows and the fairness of a UBI system with the currency that currently works the best, which is cash. And then at some point, if there's another currency that can be swapped in, we've already done all the legwork on the other stuff. And the site, like the same person, Education Entertainment TV, said, but you guys could create your own crypto and fund it like Bitcoin funded itself. I mean, other projects have tried this, like that, to like
create a UBI project after UBI project,
Circles and Mana, and like to try to create a crypto from the ground up and get it widely accepted and usable to like our our guy who needs to go to the laundromat. That is an enormous Herculean task with a very small chance of success. Just like getting UBI going is, why would you make yourself have to do two impossible tasks at the same time, like have them both be dependent on each other? Like, to me, it's like if we build a community that has hundreds of millions of people, then we could create a crypto that has the backing and the faith of hundreds of millions of people. But to start with just an idea, try to convince a lot of people to believe that they should use this currency, and to imagine it's not going to, like, 2 years from now, there'll be a run on the bank and this currency that is, like, maybe is catching some attention, like, totally collapses, and then our entire everything collapses. Like, why would we take that risk with, like, people's finances and safety?
The problem too is, like, let's say you create a UBI coin and it's like created along all the lines that I would like to do it. In which case, I think, if you're going to have a successful currency that does something like that, you have to have like a built-in transaction fee that is functions as like the burn for the mint and burn approach. So like you're issuing the currency and then you have to burn a little bit with every single transaction. And so you're actually creating like a currency that people can use, and you're trying to like find something stable there. But then the entire crypto world, the reason it's popular is because people are trying to get rich off of, trying to find that next Bitcoin, that next Ethereum, that next Solana, whatever. And so there's no interest in a coin that actually is meant to be like stable or even potentially deflate or inflationary, as in like the value goes down over time. And that's one of the biggest problems with every UBI coin so far, is that that's what you're fighting against. If you issue currency to everyone, it's going to go down over time. You have to figure out ways to prevent that. And no one is interested in like investing in something like that. So in order for it to be achievable and possible, you already have to have a population that is already agreeing on UBI, in which case, why don't they already have it? Like, I don't think that you can actually succeed through this alternate approach unless people already like love the idea.
And so education, entertainment, TV gets to the real heart of it and says, you're right, they failed, but where you get the cash to fund UBI is the only issue. And that's what we're doing differently with Comingle, is like sort of extracting it from this need to find philanthropic donors or government dollars. And we're sort of building it out like its own governmental mechanism, where the people who join Comingle are committing to essentially an income tax. And you pay an income tax, you get a basic income, and whether you come out ahead or behind is based on your income, right? Like if you're in the bottom 2/3 of the community, you get more than you put in. So it's like a solidarity model that has its own funding mechanism. That, the big question is how many people join, how many people want to do this, but it's not reliant on like endlessly going out and convincing philanthropy to keep funding it. It has its own, like, as long as there is demand from the people who want to participate, then it can continue.
All right. Want to get to another pilot next.
I think Josh wanted to say something, but he was muted.
I was muted. Sorry. I was just going to like kind of sum up like the crypto conversation is a really good one to have. It does like raise all of these things that we should be thinking about in terms of like, how does money work? How does the banking system work? Like it does, like, I think that's why it's an important thing to like at a great development in the world. But as far as like, it is sort of transformed into this, like, you're just speculating and betting that this one's going to go up and this one's going to go down. So it's the value there. It does raise the question of where does value come from? And value comes from people working, doing stuff for each other, like same place it's always come from. So the color of the money that you're passing around is kind of irrelevant, really.
Yeah. So yeah, mark me crypto blockchain hopeful, but not like committed. Like if it steps up to the plate, happy to use it because it sounds great. That's not there yet.
All right. So the Ithaca guaranteed income pilot released results. It was launched in 2022, and this one focused specifically on supporting unpaid caregivers, including parents with young children and those caring for an aging or disabled relative. Many participants were members of the sandwich generation, caring for their children and aging parents simultaneously. These individuals experience high levels of stress, illness, and early onset health problems directly linked to the pressures of caregiving. Provided $450 per month 210 randomly selected unpaid caregivers and their families for 1 year. To qualify, they needed to be earning below 80% of the area's median income. Recipients were selected by a random process, as was a control group of similar households. And independent researchers found increased financial stability and resilience, better mental and physical health, improved housing security, and higher rates of employment. So yeah, it was one of the key takeaways. Again, this is focusing on unpaid caregivers, and recipients increased their rate of full-time, part-time, and seasonal employment. In the 12 months, they were significantly more likely to be employed full-time than the control group. The percentage of stay-at-home caregivers declined substantially among the recipient group compared to the control group. This shift from full-time caregiving into employment was reflected in the qualitative data as well, with recipients reporting that guaranteed income helped them pursue employment that had previously been inaccessible to them, whether due to childcare costs or other structural barriers. So this is one of those things, before we go on for this, because I think it's just worth a discussion of its own, I could go either way as far as like this being like an actual good result. Like if you only care about, employment, then it's like, oh, great. Like these people went from not working to working. But I mean, I like to stress constantly that unpaid care work is work, it's valuable work. And I think, what makes basic income, I think, better even than childcare, providing childcare, is that you open up that option. Like if you were a parent working at home as a caregiver and you want to be employed, then that option should be available to you. And also, if you're employed and you don't want to be employed and you would prefer to be at home doing unpaid care work, then that option should be available to you. And so basic income actually enables both of those options, whereas childcare does not. So it's just interesting that some people in this actually did choose employment because they wanted to and they couldn't do it otherwise.
There's an interesting one of our stories. Through that, we learned about a program in Colorado, and so there's like a tangential thing that like got us into this thing where it's like they moved to Colorado to take advantage of a program that exists there, where if you're caring for a loved one, you can like go through training and get certified as some level of nurse or aide or whatever, and you can get paid by the state to care for your own family member, rather than going out and getting work and then using that money to pay for someone else to come and take care of your. It's like that the whole weird cyclical thing of needing to create extra GDP or whatever. Like there are a lot of people that benefit from this program in Colorado, and like they get training, they get future careers, and they get the ability to have gainful employment caring for somebody that needs caring for in their own.
Yeah, it's just a really, it gets right to the heart of like why basic income is kind of a game changer. Like maybe because it exposes this like weird thing that happens. Like you can hire, like for instance, my mother-in-law is suffering from dementia and needs some caregiving. Her caregiver just sort of finished caregiving for her own relative, and that person passed away. But she now has these skills that she's like, wait, I can now apply these skills to helping somebody else. And so she's an excellent person to have there for us. But then at the same time, she's got a 7-year-old kid that she is now having to like figure out how to provide care for that 7-year-old kid. And so there is this cycle that we're all kind of involved in each other's lives. We need this person's help. They're helping us by allowing us to like go out and make money so that we can then pay them. Like it's kind of the cycle of exchanges is kind of endless. And so to have some money fueling that is going to only help.
Right, you make the most sensible choices rather than what you have only access to. It's like a weird version of the robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's like abandoning Timmy to take care of Grammy situation, And it's like the more access you have to just financial resources, the more you can make the choice that's right for you. Like the choice that a person who's totally financially comfortable makes will generally be the one that is the most sensible in terms of investing their time and being with the ones they love. And we're preventing people from making those decisions by allowing like strict necessity to dictate what they're allowed to do.
Yeah. Okay. So, past employment for key takeaways: financial stability and resilience. Recipients demonstrated significantly less income volatility and reported higher mean incomes compared to the control group. 6 months after the payments stopped, the rate of income volatility among the control group was 1.3 times higher than the recipient group. All participants faced a period of historically high inflation rates, which rapidly increased the price of basic necessities. Guaranteed income may have blunted this impact on recipients who were more likely to be able to manage a $400 emergency, the people in the control group. There was also a 30% increase in savings among the recipient group. Physical and mental health recipients demonstrated significantly better physical health outcomes at 12 months, suggesting that guaranteed income may have helped in managing chronic health conditions and engaging in health promoting behaviors. Both groups reported high stress levels, but the recipient group showed a lower rate over time, including after the pilot ended. The reduction in stress may have contributed to the improved health outcomes that recipients demonstrated. Parents in the recipient group also reported lower rates of parental stress during and after the pilot compared to the control group. The caregiver burden was relatively similar for both groups at the pilot's outset, but the recipient groups reported burden dropped from 42% at baseline to 34% at 6 months. The control group reported an increase in their caregiver burden during the same period.
How do you, like, I just want to get my head around a little bit, like, how do you put a number on caregiver burden, like number of hours, number of how much cortisol is in your blood?
I
Like,
would assume it was hours. Yeah, that would be my guess without going to look at the report. When it comes to housing stability, recipients demonstrated greater housing stability throughout the study, dropping 10 percentage points from the baseline to 6 months after payments stopped. There was a small increase in home ownership and an overall shift into more stable housing amongst recipients, while the control group reported higher rates of utilizing rental assistance in living in public housing. Household chaos appears to have decreased for people in the recipient group, suggesting better home environments. And I really like this one, hopefulness. Recipients showed meaningful improvements in their sense of mattering and a sustained increase in high levels of hope.
Yeah, that gets at the core of it for me. Like watching people go through it over the years where it's like hopefulness, confidence, self-security, like just basically feeling like they were now the authors of their own lives and had some control and that they mattered. Like what's more important than that, really? Because everything else kind of flows from that, like your basic, like your productivity or your basic safety or whatever. Like if you feel hopeful and like you matter and you have steps you can take, like that's because they all go together,
It's also a good, it's a good metric in a way. Like, how do you measure whether you feel like you matter, right? Like, you can't say that there's some objective way to measure that. Like, are we going to say, like, they said they feel like they mattered, but actually, no, they didn't. They actually, right? Like,
we surveyed other people about that, and they said they didn't matter.
Turns out you don't matter. You think you do, but you're wrong.
We asked 5 billionaires if they mattered, and they said no.
The bullshit jobs metric, it's like self-reported. Do you think your job matters? It's like similar, like self-reported. Do you think you have the ability to matter? Yeah.
But that becomes like it's self-evident, and literally, like that you can't get any more objective than that because you're not even measuring something objective. So it's, I don't know, it gets it to the heart of like, well, how do you know for sure? Is this really a true study or not?
Yeah. No, it's like the opposite of a bullshit job. It's
also,
like,
yeah,
with bullshit jobs being defined by, do you think it's a bullshit job? And this is like, do you think you matter? And yeah, I do matter. It's great. Yeah. Like, didn't you matter?
Yeah, you answered the question.
I mean,
the way that we thought.
But also phrasing it as hopefulness and like letting mattering, like maybe mattering wasn't part of the question. Maybe it's like, do you feel hopeful? Or at least one of the questions where like that is a good metric for finding all of these other things. Cause like everyone has some level of hopefulness and cynicism, right? And it's on a sliding scale. So if you move from some level of hopeful to another level of hopeful or skeptical to less skeptical or whatever, that's sort of like, even though it's like a soft science, it's like a whatever emotional state, self-reported, it's still very clear. When you feel hopeful about your future versus when you don't. It's incredibly different. You function totally differently. Your reality's totally different. That's a really good question, actually. Like, how do you, like, maybe that should be one of the impact questions we do for Comingle, like in our quarterly surveys or whatever, is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful are you about your future, and kind of track that.
And then, I guess,
do
like
you feel
the
that
one,
you matter?
Yeah, the way that you could, I guess, kind of tear apart that way of measuring things is that you're like, well, of course, when you're being asked that question by the people that are your sort of beneficiaries, or the people that are providing this extra money for you, you're going to tell them, yes, I feel better about it. But even that is sort of a way of defining the question. When we asked you, when the people that gave you money asked you whether you felt better about it, did you say yes or no? Like, a person could have said no. And the fact that there weren't that many that didn't, right? Like, it still is a measurement.
Yeah,
I
it's a
get
measurement in at
particular
least other
about how
things
you
too.
like, how do you actually measure these like psychological effects? Because
Yeah.
like maybe somebody later on, like after, if somebody else comes along and asks them, like, do you feel hopeful? They'd be like, depending on whether they, had a good meal or something, might say, no, I feel really horrible.
I think another less direct but also good indicator is like your basic levels of anger and getting alongness with other people. Like, I think those are very tied in. Like when things aren't going your way, like when someone's exploding at you irrationally, it's like if you have the ability to step aside and be like, well, something's going on in their life, because like me accidentally stepping on the corner of their lawn shouldn't have led to this. So what are they going through, right? If in general, like a universal system like UBI would, mitigate a lot of those like shit's going wrong in your life pressures, like they would reduce, like because you have more ability to handle them or they start going away. And then your interactions with everyone around you become a lot more gracious. Like that's how I am. Like when I've had good news one day, I'm a way better person to be around than when everything's like piling up and I don't know what the hell to do about it. Then you don't want to be around me as much or anybody because I'm testy.
Yeah, maybe the real way to measure is you ask the people that are close to that person, is this person hopeful or not?
Yeah. Are they being a dick lately or are they being nicer?
Do you like this
We
person
can-
more now, or do you like more now than you did before they went into this study?
We can touch on this one next. This is a comment. We can highlight the Alaska strategy, where the revenue of oil is spread out to the population. If each state is something like it, then we have a strategy. I think it's a good thing to get to because it actually segues over to one of the things I wanted to cover, and that is the news out of New Mexico.
Well, right before you do that, I had one question about the last three, which was they were all in the same font and format, like they're on the same website. Like what was that?
Those are mayors for guaranteed income pilots. So the website is Guaranteed Income Works. So yeah, people can go there to stay up to date on the results from those pilots. Okay, so the big news out of New Mexico is that they are becoming the first state to offer universal childcare, and this is they estimate that they'll be providing $12,000 a year of universal childcare. And it's such a big deal. I mean, first of all, they've already had the childcare program there in New Mexico, and it had been like up to $1,000 is what you could qualify for the care. But now they decided to universalize it.
So you mean income, like not $400,000 in benefits,
No,
if you make up to $400K.
Yeah, no, you're paying way too much for childcare if you're spending
mean,
$400,000 a year on childcare.
At that point, when you've got it up to like a cutoff of $400K, there's like 50 more people in the state or whatever. Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but like you're trying to like block out 1% of people. Like it wouldn't even affect the budget much to universalize it. So just
That's
do it.
how the child tax credit actually already works. And this was like when Trump expanded it during his first administration, they could have targeted it or whatever, but it was $4,000. You're barely keeping anyone out, in which case, why are you doing it? But so wanted to cover this not only because this is about universality and like how effective it is and like, why I want to do this and stuff, but this is made possible also from oil money. Like this is what they decided to do in New Mexico was like, they've set up a trust that goes towards children's care, like education and care and stuff. And so, instead of Alaska deciding to do like universal dividend, they're deciding to like focus on kids. And sure, those are two different approaches. I certainly like both of them, but I really like that they're actually doing fully universal. Like when it comes to programs, I feel pretty much the only other thing is like universal school lunches, like in Minnesota. But to see like universal childcare, I hope that like the political success of this, like the fact that it's popular, people love it, that you'll just see more universality in general, in other states. I wanted
That
to
was cool to
find,
me because I've got a niece and nephew in
yeah.
yeah. Although they're a little old for the childcare, but like my family's I grew up in Colorado, but they all moved to Albuquerque. So I'm like I get to be vicariously proud of my sort of state because yeah, it's the sort of thing too. Like I imagine basic income policies when they happen somewhere being the sort of things that a lot of people could take a lot of pride in their state or their country. Like if it happened, like I feel like I could use some of those things where I'm like I'm proud of where I'm from. Developments.
Mhm.
It would feel real good because some of the shit we got going on, well, my whole life, but now especially is it's like you go travel in another country and you hope that they assume you're Canadian. You're like, oh, they must think I'm nice and rational or something.
All right, since we're talking about kids now, let's go to the RX Kids stuff. Yeah, that's good. So that's here, this one. So for those who don't know, and we've covered this before, like when it launched even, that Flint, Michigan is doing also like a universal program. So this is universal in Flint for all pregnant mothers. So like if you become pregnant in Flint, Michigan, then you can actually get this money. And the money is $1,500 during pregnancy and then $500 a month for a year. Doesn't matter how much rich you are or poor, whatever, if you're working or not working, anyone can qualify to get that money. And so again, like it's just great to see any kind of universal program to make sure that, you're minimizing excluding people, you're minimizing admin costs, and, it's a popular program. People love it. So yeah, the results from this just came out. And again, it was great news. They covered both the results on the moms and the kids. Like even the timing of this, I feel like the results of this came out like right around the time when you saw a big series of anti-UBI pieces. And so it's like, oh, look, this worked really well. Researchers at Michigan State University published 2 studies. The results show that RX Kids lowered rates of maternal postpartum depression, stabilized families' housing, and improved infant outcomes, saving millions of dollars in NICU spending. So if you don't know NICU, this is like premature births and stuff. And so like you can save a lot of money if you're making sure that the environment within the womb is healthier, so that there's fewer premature births, and that carries over like through the entire
yeah.
lifespan.
It means neonatal ICU or intensive care unit is for kids that like can't come home or kids that are sick in different ways. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you spent
something.
some time in there.
Yeah, with one of our stories, and also like some of this is close to me now because like we're due to have a kid in the next 2 months. So if it happened early, that's where we might be. There's something about just like the money to new parents and mom, like the quote, like we used it to buy a bassinet, and there's all this shame and stigma about how well you're parenting this, precious little infant. And then you go around like we're buying all these things. It's like, Jesus Christ, there's a lot and it's expensive. And, we're able to, but I've spent a lot of time in my life where I wasn't able to buy things and we just kind of went without because I'm, able-bodied. I can be hungry. I can eat ramen or whatever, but you can't do that for your baby. You can't do that for, like your nutrition when you're pregnant. You can't do that for a newborn baby, or it's like you are failing this human being. And there's like great external and internal shame in not being able to do like what's expected or what's the right way. But it's the reality for people so like the level of like, here's money to do it as well as you can. And, I think it should be more. I think a full UBI would like
Reach all that.
would reach everybody at these times, and like with some for children too. That's why we designed ours the way we did. We actually had a pregnant mother in our basic income program who had a baby during it, and I haven't looked into it to find out or whatever, but we designed it such that he was born with a basic income, so that Like, I don't know if like that's happened before. I don't know if he's the first person to be born with a UBI, but I like that idea. Like the second you exist, like there is support coming in for you and to like help you come up right, and to help your parents, be able to and feel good about how they're taking care of you.
Yeah, and just to emphasize this, it could be something that people are thinking even just listening to this is that, and I got into this in that big article I did recently, but there's a difference. Like in this one, it was great that as soon as the kid was born, then that household got $500 per month. But that's not the same thing as like the mom already having $1,000 per month, and then when the kid is born, then that household getting an additional $333 per month, which is what you all did in the Bootstraps pilot. And that's not what this did. So this is still great, but it's different. Like in order, what should be already the case is that all the women in this pilot, they should have already been getting $1,000 per month, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get pregnant, they get an additional $1,500 during pregnancy. And then when their kid's born, then they get an additional, 330, 500, whatever, in order to afford the expenses of the child. Like that is what basic income is looking at every individual in the household and not just the household as a whole.
Because sort of the implication is this money is for your baby and you're going to spend it on your baby. I hope. If you are, hungry and hurt and whatever, like that's on you. You figured that out. So then there's this weird shame thing of like, okay, I have some money and I need stuff. My baby needs stuff. I can't use any of it on me because it's for the baby. Or if I do, then I'm a bad person. I'm a bad mom. It's like, you got to take care of each individual. Like you have to have the resources for each individual to live with security and dignity. Otherwise, you're like making us compete against each other for those resources, which is the problem with any sort of targeted program or any program that like leaves people out or any policy. Is we're now putting different human beings at odds with each other in like sort of a struggle over resources in some way.
Yeah, like you already can see people, even though this is like a great win and great positive results, if you don't have a kid and you're looking at this and you're like, well, that's not fair. Why are they getting this? I'm not. I'm having a horrible time. I've been looking for a job for the past, 20 months or something, and I can't find anything. And they're getting free money for having a kid. Like that's so bad. So yeah, it's full universality defeats that. So here's this is all like great here. So I just want to cover this multiple aspects of why this is a success recovered here. So this is a quote. This is a place-based intervention. This is not for poor people. It's for poor places, said Hannah. That approach reduces shame and stigma and tells the residents, we trust you. We know how hard it is to have a kid, and there's a whole village society walking alongside you and investing in you. The approach also has helped RX kids rebuild trust in the city's institutions. Keene says, especially after the water crisis, regardless of income, pregnancy and childbirth are hard for everyone, she said. The program aims to acknowledge that families are poorest in this perinatal period, leading right up to birth and then following the birth of a child, but also that the same period conversely is such a critical developmental window for the baby. Hannah adds that the universality makes the program easy to administer. Even as it's expanded to new communities, it hasn't had to hire more staff, which has won it wide bipartisan support. The size of the program has also created a large data set for Michigan State researchers to assess its impacts. In one paper published in the American Journal of Public Health, Hannah and her co-authors found that no low-income families were evicted after childbirth, and postpartum depression levels fell 14% among mothers who participated in RX Kids. In every measure of financial stability, of maternal mental health, and maternal well-being, the mamas that were exposed to RX Kids had improved outcomes, said Hannah. The perinatal period can be one of the most financially unstable times for families as they take time off work to give birth and care for newborns, but also see the rising costs of diapers, formula, and childcare. In a second pre-printed analysis published on the Social Science Research Network, Hannah and her colleagues found that those same cash transfers translated to better infant outcomes, which saved millions of state dollars. Infants whose families were enrolled in RX Kids experienced lower rates of prematurity and low birth weight, which resulted in fewer NICU admissions, saving the city in Flint up to $6.2 million a year. That speaks for itself, I feel, in just it's really expensive to have any kind of, emergency medical care. We talk about this all the time as basic income having an impact there and savings. And so like right here, this is one of those things you can save a lot of money on is if you just make sure that the wombs that babies develop in, if it's a healthier environment, if they're less stressed, if they have, more food, if they're food secure, then you're going to save a lot of money that could potentially be spent on healthcare that you wouldn't necessarily need otherwise. And you're going to have better outcomes, on those kids and their futures. So this was actually one of the responses that Give Directly had to the baby's first year study, where they were saying, look, like even if you didn't find anything from these kids in their first 4 years, what you didn't do was make sure that their moms had that security when they were in the womb. And so, like, we think that this is kind of a key factor is if you really want to make sure that you improve like child development outcomes, like the first few years, then you actually have to start before they're born. And I think that's an absolutely fair critique. And I think this kind of backs it up too.
Yeah, it's a lot about how well positioned the mom and dad can be going into raising this kid. Like, you don't wait until they're in crisis mode to help a little. You can help them not fall into crisis mode, and that's one of the things we saw. I'm holding back from giving too many, um, spoilers from our show today, but there was one thing I want to say. Oh yeah, this idea of saving money by like less hospitalizations or whatever. Like if we do this, if we spend this money here when we save money over here. I just want to caution as well, like one place this can go sometimes is like with the Denver project. Like they spent a certain amount of money on the project and then they measured the savings in this one area and said, see, look, we saved, $2 million. And it's like, well, the program cost $5 million, so it wasn't worth it. Right. And it kind of like seeds the idea that, well, this amount of money saved must be more than the amount we spent for this program to be worth it. But it's ignoring all the other benefits of having the basic income, the other places where money is saved or more money is made, or just like the value of spending money, even if there isn't a return, in improving quality of life of people. So I just want to make sure it doesn't go for any of our viewers into their head that like, well, we should do UBI because we'll make money off of it. Like we might, and we'll save a lot of money in certain ways, but it shouldn't be that simple of a calculus of like, we'll save this much money, so we're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's also, even if we didn't have any windfall, which is how my first way of thinking about it. If we improve all these people's lives this much, it's a cost that is worth it to do, doesn't have to be profitable.
There's something else to cover along those lines, like, because another result actually showed that kind of paying for itself stuff. I don't want to go there yet. I want to go to this next video first to watch. And I haven't watched this yet, so I'm just kind of curious about this as well. And we can comment along the way.
1 in 8. That's how many New Jersey children live in poverty, according to the progressive think tank NJ Policy Perspective, which says it has a new plan to tackle child poverty in New Jersey. And it centers around one simple idea: giving families in need cash. The new report out today offers multiple ways to achieve that goal, but even advocates warn it'll come with a hefty price tag, and it's unclear if the state would foot the bill. Raven Santana takes a look.
In a new report called Freedom from Want, an Economic Guarantee for New Jersey's Kids, researchers lay out two pathways to dramatically reduce child poverty in the state where 1 in 8 children live below the poverty line.
I mean, we talk about the challenges of raising a child as a working parent with, relatively, stable financial means. Now imagine when we're talking about poverty, that's $32,000 for a family of 4, right? 1 in 8 children are living at that level of economic deprivation. And the solution is straightforward. We can give families money to help them meet the costs that children bring with them.
The first plan doubled the size of existing tax credits like the Earned Income Tax Credit and Child Tax Credit. Price tag about $1.8 billion a year. The second plan is more ambitious: a $5,000 annual cash payment for every Medicaid eligible child. It would start with the youngest children, then expand to kids up to 17, eventually costing more than $3 billion annually.
Cash it's really about freedom for families. It's about economic security, about knowing that one, car repair, one rent increase isn't going to be enough to bankrupt your family, to put you out on the street, to force you to get a second job, right? The whole point behind this is giving families, saying government should not be in the business of deciding how families spend their money. Families know best how to spend their money.
Peter Chen of NJ Policy Perspective says the state can afford it, pointing out New Jersey already spends nearly $5 billion a year on property tax credits and hundreds of millions on corporate subsidies.
The expansion of the child tax credit that happened as part of the American Rescue Plan, that was a nationwide program that benefited 60 million people. We're talking about a 40% reduction in child poverty at a national level that was immediately reversed when that expanded tax credit went away.
It's insane. Anything, and look, and there are aspects to it that we could talk about. We all want to eliminate poverty. We all want to elevate people's standard of living. So let's stipulate to the mission. But the way to do it isn't to do a massive wealth transfer.
But not everyone is on board. Republican lawmakers call the proposal unrealistic.
These programs, as proposed, would add $5 billion to New Jersey's $60 billion budget. We already have a $4 billion structural deficit. So we're going to now have a $9 billion structural deficit. Stop. It's impossible.
Advocates argue
How much
it
does
is
child poverty
possible,
cost
pointing
in
to
New
pilots
Jersey?
in Newark and Patterson that showed promise. Jenny Marie Jobo, one of 400 Newark residents chosen from 4,700 applicants and who asked we not show her face, received $12,000 over 2 years, no strings attached.
So it wasn't like I went to Atlantic City and dropped it all on a spin. All of my money was invested into myself and my future and my family and things I could do with it.
And in Flint, Michigan, a program called RX Kids gives new mothers $500 a month.
Expected moms receive $1,500 in about mid-pregnancy, and then $500 a month until their baby turns 1. Families can use it to buy cribs, to get to that prenatal care appointment, to pay for food, to buy diapers.
Supporters say direct cash assistance pays for itself over time through better health outcomes, higher earnings, and lower costs down the road.
Yes. A decline in the low birth weight in Flint, decline in prematurity. So we're having healthier babies. We've seen a reduction in postpartum depression among mamas. We've seen a decline in evictions. Families are more residentially stable.
For advocates, the question is whether lawmakers have the will. The report is now being sent to the governor and state legislators in hopes of sparking debate. For NJ Spotlight News, I'm Raven Santana.
All right, they even covered a little bit of what we just talked about. That's fine.
That guy. First of all, I was like, this guy's got a cool name. Declan O'Scanlan. That's like the most Irish, pretty name. And then he turns into a smug bastard. It's just not possible. Wow. $4 billion structural deficit. It's like, well, what are you spending all that money on? What's it accomplishing?
That's the question.
Why would it be better than ending child? Like maybe
you're spending all this money on
tax
something,
cuts.
but you're not spending it on babies that need money to live. Whatever the money is being spent on, it's making an economy for your people that is unaffordable.
And since you just said that about the Irish name, let's cover.
Great segue, Scott. Oh, man. You're the king at these. Segue king.
Basic Income for the Arts pilot produced over 100 million euros in social and economic benefits. So, yeah, for those who don't know, in Ireland, artists have been receiving a basic income of, I think it was 325 euros a week. It's going on 3 years and it's almost done.
How many people was it? Is it like a large pilot, or I don't remember?
I think it was 2,000 artists. Maybe we'll see it in this, but it's a pretty large pilot. So it turns out that for every dollar of public money invested in the pilot, society received $1.39 in return. And the net cost of the pilot went from 105 million euros to under 72 million euros due to text generated and savings on social welfare payments. So that means, first of all, this amount was taxed, so it wasn't like untaxed. So therefore, like some of it came back just from taxing that in the first place. But also there was an increase in earnings from art. So yeah, we'll skip to this. This was their income increased by over 500 euros per month on average, while their income from non-arts work decreased by around 280 euros. So overall, their incomes increased. And then also because their incomes increased and they had this basic income, dependence on social protection declined, with the recipients receiving 100 euros less per month on average and 38 percentage points less likely to receive job seekers payments. So they needed less welfare, their incomes went up, and they also were able to do more work on the stuff that they wanted, which was art instead of like their side gigs.
It's awesome. I don't like the artist side of things has always been compelling to me because I make a joke sometimes if I'm on a podcast or something about how I got into this work. It's like, well, I was trying to be an actor, but it's so impossible in this economy to be an actor. I thought the easiest path to success would be to try and fix the economy and then be an actor.
All of these like arts related direct cash programs, like I've never really looked at it too closely, but like, how do you prove that you're an artist?
I think they're pretty loosey goosey with it. I think they're
I mean, that's a pretty
trusting.
tough job to begin with.
Yeah.
Just as a person, how do you just say you can define me as this? Like,
I think it is targeted, but I think they like have a lot of leeway. Basically, if you apply and make a good case, like Creatives Rebuild New York, like I don't think they're going to send out a social worker to come verify that you.
So like look at your portfolio and like decide whether you're a real artist or not. Like, no, these are nice drawings, but you're not a real artist.
Also,
so sorry, no money for you.
In this pilot too, it wasn't just like what you might think of as artists, like maybe it was people like in the arts who were, maybe they're like, stagehands or something, like there's jobs within the arts and they were able to qualify too. So there's, it wasn't just for like artists as you would like think of as being artists, but also, yeah, I think, Conrad's right. If we were to like dig into like what Ireland actually did and who all qualified, there was, you applied for it and then randomly chosen among those who applied. And so, I'm sure like some of those were just like, barely, as in maybe they had done a little bit here or there and they really wanted to do more. Like, I don't think that anyone is actually part of the pilot who has like never done anything and they're just like, like I would much rather prefer this money to my shit job, and I'll become an artist if I need to, like to qualify. I don't think they probably did that.
Even then, they took artistic license in their application. So
it kind of goes back to, if Picasso's like, every child is an artist. In a way, it's kind of like giving the money to babies is also an arts program.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's close enough. Like because I think these are all demonstrations that should lead toward universalism. Like it doesn't bother me even slightly. I'm sure it's mostly people who are really trying to spend as much time as possible doing their art, and then some other people got through, and it's like, okay, fine. And maybe they started doing art, maybe they were full of it, but in the end, it doesn't really matter to me. The thing I'm really focusing on is getting back to my art. I love to bring out my Irish accent sometimes, and seeing like. Patrick O'Donovan is like the most Irish name I've ever seen. It made me think of a joke Dea told me once where, see if you guys know this one. What is Irish and stays out all night? Patio furniture. Patio furniture.
Really, really prepping those dad jokes.
Yeah, no, I got lots. I've got like several more Irish ones if you want. No, okay.
No, you can hold on those for now.
Yeah,
we got a lot more to cover.
Save it for another episode. If there's a lot of like comments that we want more Irish accent jokes, then we can bring them back.
If we get 10 comments at all.
Okay, so before we move on from this, another thing I just wanted to point out was this part. The most substantial social gain came from improvements in psychological well-being, contributing almost 80 million euros to total benefits. The calculation they used for this was interesting and complicated, and I certainly don't even remember it offhand, but it was like um, they just have like some measure that they use in Ireland to even try to get this. So even that's interesting already that there is a measurement that exists where it's like per person doing this or whatever. It's like 15,000 euros or something per like point of psychological being. So they like put a value on the scale that they use for psychological well-being. And so based on that, there was this improvement there that has a value where it's almost like the cost of the pilot. They distributed 105 million, and then after taxes and decreases in like welfare spending, and that dropped to 72 million. And then they had this 80 million in psychological well-being. And so if you measure it out that way, then you're already 8 million ahead as far as like, what is the value that you got for this. And then of course you've got your $1.39 per dollar. That's how society benefited. And
I guess
I just like that in general, that they're actually even caring to try to calculate that, like what is the return?
It opens up a really big argument and an interesting argument about like, well, how much is, 2 points of psychological well-being worth in dollars? Like, but the exercise of actually trying to put real dollar values on everything to be like a more, I guess, robust economics. Like when we talk about like societal health, mental health, or like when we talk about externalities of fossil fuels and things like that. Like a lot of the problems with our systems and our assumptions is that we just leave out the economic values or costs of so many things. So we're not doing the full math. Like we're not, like when we pay for gas at the pump, we're not accounting for the damage being done to society. Like we're just not paying for it. Like we're letting someone else later pay for it. Similarly, this is like on the flip side of that is like we're accounting for a value that we're later going to benefit from. And we're putting a dollar value on it and not just ignoring it, like taking it for granted.
Yeah, I feel like like based on this externalization of costs argument, I feel like you'd almost like kind of flip it on its head and look at like what we're not spending on the arts as being externalized costs to the rest of society that society pays for not having like a rich arts, like cultural sector, because we're not investing in it.
Yeah. What's the dollar value of like the what's on offer for me to watch on TV being a little shittier? Like how much value out of my life has been taken from me because we don't have better art?
Yeah, I mean, there have been attempts to like quantify like standard of living and that kind of thing. Like maybe that's what we really need to do is like focus in on like an improvement in the arts is, you could say, is an improvement in your standard of living for your city, right? Like if you're using that as like, how do you, people are going to look around and see like my city's awesome because there's people like doing cool things around you, right? So
it's not just a new agey bullshit lovey-dovey thing. It's like, no, cities that have more art scene and culture, people move there and rents go up. Like if you're a cold-hearted capitalist, it does have economic value.
Yeah, and tourists too. Like in New Orleans, I remember I like to bring that up sometimes in conferences. Being from New Orleans, it's just that you walk around New Orleans and there's people playing music on the streets. It's just like kind of all over the place in the French Quarter. You're going to hear something. And that's one of the reasons why people go there. So, you've got the artist on the street and they got like their hat out or whatever, and people are leaving some tips here or there. But like the value to the city is worth so much more than the money being put in the hat, like so many people are going there and spending because of that. It's like, it feels like it's in the background and you don't really like say, oh, that they should be just, being paid so much more or whatever, when like their value is massive.
It's one of those places where you can go visit and not have any like destinations planned. You just kind of wander around, and like the city itself is like a place to be wherever you are. It's like, oh, look at that crazy ass building and that insane tree, and now there's music happening. And yeah, there's something like, it almost makes you feel like it should be intangible, but the idea of trying to quantify it is interesting. It reminds me a little.
It's kind of a key thing. Like we've got all of these like unquantified values that people are out there creating for each other. Like, and I think like the fact that people aren't, that it's hard to actually put a number on it, or maybe we just haven't bothered to put a number on it, that we think that they don't exist, right? That we think that those should not be part of our fiscal policy. because like those things you're talking about, yeah, those are great, but we can't measure them. They're not real, right? So it's like I think giving the number to the thing actually kind of, it makes those aspects of life actually, it gives them value, like literally gives them a value. Just assign the value to it, right?
And they can take so long, like, Conrad and the Bootstraps documentary, like almost a decade. We covered last week talking about, Silk Song, super popular indie game that just came out that took 7 years to complete. And I'm just thinking now too, like from the Silk Song perspective, first of all, it can take a lot of time and you're just working on this. And maybe people think you're not doing anything, but you are working on this whole time. But also, it's all the stuff that beyond that. So, like when it came to Silk Song, it's something that incorporates a lot of like stuff from just the genre, other games. It's the genre is Metroidvania. So it's like Metroid and Castlevania. It requires like playing these games, So like the creators of these games, they're creating great games, but they're creating great games because they played other great games, and you have to enable that too. Art is generated by the experiences of the artists, and so you can't just even put a value on the art generated because you need to incorporate everything that goes into what makes the art possible, which is living life. And, you need to live a long time and experience all kinds of things in order to create great art. You're not just going to come out of the womb creating great art.
It reminds me too, like, so I have a couple of things I think about. One is acting, where it's like hearing these stories of, people struggling, desperate to get in the biz or whatever, but then they get taken away because they have a kid or something. Like a woman has a kid and has to spend a couple of years getting that kid ready to like be a little more, self-sustaining or whatever. And like 3 or 4 years later, it's like, okay, I'm now a mom. I have a little time. I'm gonna get back into auditioning. And my acting teacher's telling me like they start nailing lots of roles because they have a lot more in their cup, basically a lot more experience, a lot more life, a lot more things. And also they have things that are more important to them than getting that job. Like I'm here out of passion and joy, and it's not like this is defining my entire life. I'm doing it for the fun and experience of it. I've got a kid to get home to, which is making me a more well-rounded and experienced person that I can now bring to this thing that is less ultimately important to me as an end-all be-all, but something as a creative pursuit. And all of a sudden they become much better artists. And then the other thing it reminds me of is this, one of my favorite movies ever is Stranger Than Fiction. It's like the only movie where Will Ferrell doesn't act like a jackass. Like he's funny. He was in Jackass, but it's like his Truman Show, basically. And I think of, what's her name? Emma Thompson, who's one of the greatest actors of all time. And she's playing a writer, and Queen Latifah's like the manager coming in to try to get her to like finish her damn novel. And Emma Thompson is like standing on her desk, like going like this or whatever. And she's like imagining death scenarios for her title character or whatever. And Queen Latifah comes in and says, "It doesn't look like you're getting anything done." Emma's like, "What do you know about writing? Like, have you ever written anything in your life?" It's like, she's like, "I'm writing right now and you're interrupting me," So like something about the experiential stuff is like, it's very well covered in that movie. I would recommend that movie to anybody.
Will Ferrell works for the IRS in that movie, right?
Yeah. And it's like, he's like in a typical like soul sucking job. It's all sort of this meta narrative about like being a character in your own story or someone else's story. So it actually kind of fits into UBI themes pretty well too. Like what's purpose and who controls your life. Yeah. That one makes me cry every time.
So the next thing I wanted to cover is, again, so this is the new like Finland study. And so this just came out. The highlights: the randomized experiment increased participants' average income by 9% to 11%. We already knew that it slightly increased hours worked, but this is also interesting too, where you got to see that, like kind of basically the incomes that were paid by the jobs that they took, too. So incomes actually went up that much. Health outcomes. Oh, and I should also add too, for people who may be thinking that this is like due to the basic income. One of the things about the Finland pilot is that the control group got paid the exact same amount of money as the basic income group. It's just that they got traditional unemployment benefits, and then the basic income group got a basic income of that same amount. So the difference there, of course, is that, if you get a job and you're in the unemployment insurance group, then you lose that and then you just have the job income. Whereas the basic income group got to keep their basic income in addition to their job. So that resulted in an increase in average income of 9% to 11%.
Didn't it also, in the Finnish one, like another confounding variable is that there were other forms of benefits that the people
Yeah.
who were even getting the basic income had, where if they did get a job, they would keep their basic income, but they might lose other forms of benefits. So that would added like a disincentive.
Yeah. So imagine, imagine you're a family, or let's say you're a dad in a family of four. So you're married and you have two kids, and you actually have housing assistance and you have child benefits. So, maybe you're getting $3,000 per month between this other stuff. And then you're also getting this additional, it was like around $600 per month in basic income. And so the equation you're looking at is if you accept a job, you get to keep your $600 per month, but then you lose your $3,000 per month. So why would you do that?
Or some amount of it, right? Like it
Right,
becomes,
right.
if it
Whatever
phases out
the-
or if it's a cliff or whatever, like those are all like the real decisions you have to make. Like you can hurt yourself by working still. Like it's still, anytime you have part of your benefits being targeted and like means tested, then it just like creates a ceiling or like some downward pressure on your ability or the wisdom of taking a job.
Yeah. So it's good to bring that up too, because this is actually, I think, underestimating the impact for that reason that you just illustrated, is that, yes, it was actually better than we thought because average income went up 9% to 11%. But because were these people who would have taken a job if they weren't worse off from losing the other welfare, in which case that if that weren't the case, then you would see even higher percentage than that.
Better than we thought, worse than it could have been.
Yeah. And so, another part of this is, so this was the health study. Health outcomes were objectively measured using data from medical records and prescriptions. This is also why it took a while, you couldn't just do this immediately afterwards. Psychotropic drug use decreased by 8% to 11%, with suggestive evidence of fewer outpatient visits due to mental health issues. And then they found no significant effects were detected on other health outcomes. So again, based on the details of the experiment, usually wouldn't expect much of a, especially when it comes to hospitalization rates, you're not going to really see that much outside of a saturation pilot. This was Finland wide. So this was 2,000 unemployed Finns across the entire country. And so I'm impressed that they did find some suggestive evidence of fewer outpatient visits. But also, the drug use decreased. We see that over and over again. So there's just more evidence that it's also not only what we typically think of as abuse of drugs, addictive drugs, but also psychotropic drugs, even for mental health and stuff. We see that often as well, where you may need less of that, even because of improvements in mental health.
Well, a lot of one of the things that has always baffled me that we ignore is a lot of mental health is a response to real circumstances, right? It's we're medicating what's wrong with your brain, right? But what if what's wrong with your brain is that you lived in a fucked up life, it's just the truth, right? And so if we can make everyone content and complacent, I'm not trying to completely, crap on psychiatric healthcare, but there's an element of it where we're treating and diagnosing not people's inherent mental problems, but we're treating the symptoms of the life they live in, the world they live in. So if you another way to treat that is to make life a lot less awful to try to live, and then you still have some sort of psychological mental health issues to deal with, but they go down a lot because people aren't medicating their poverty, their reaction to poverty, their reaction to domestic violence, their reaction to whatever. Those things start going down, there's a lot less to cope with.
Right. The next thing we're getting here towards the end, I thought this was a fun one to cover, and this is the tooth fairy is getting more expensive. So I wanted to cover this because I think it kind of informs what the amount of UBI should be. So by the numbers in this
50
survey,
teeth per month or something. Like how much does a kid get for a tooth anymore?
yeah, so
It's like a
kids
quarter for me.
receiving a weekly allowance can expect $37 a week, and the Tooth Fairy is paying $14.87 currently.
Really? It was like a quarter from my tooth.
Yeah, I was really excited. I'd get like a $2 bill. And that was, I think, like the most, like maybe I got like a $5 bill one time, like
Can you
towards the end there. But I
imagine
think it
waking
was
up and
mostly
there's like a 50, and if you're right at the average, like there's
right. If
$14 and
like, there's definitely
87 cents
people
under
yeah.
your pillow.
There's kids getting paid $50, just like
Yeah, it
was
is
it
not
another
unheard of.
another one? Shoot, they had like a birthday gift, $56 for adults, $83 for children. So if some parents are, it's an average to get $83 for a kid for a present, like you can get a good amount for the Tooth Fairy. But this is what I wanted to cover the most, is just that kids receiving a weekly allowance can expect $37 per week on average. In which case, I feel this needs to be the bare minimum for a basic income, because for an adult, and Comingle, with the goal of that being $50 per week, that qualifies as being above 37. It should not be below 37 because it just doesn't seem right.
This is the average
for
weekly
adults
allowance
to get like less than a kid's weekly allowance on average. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we can just cover the cost of the Tooth Fairy money, like that's a victory right there.
So that's the answer to like what's the lowest that you would be willing to start with? Like when people are like, here's
Right.
your North
That's my new
Star
lowest.
UBI, but like what is too low to even bother is like $37 a week
Right.
is my
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
No, you gotta pay more than the Tooth Fairy. You just gotta. The government has to spend more than the Tooth Fairy.
Well, the Tooth Fairy was $15 a tooth, which is like every, it's not every week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Tooth Fairy. I'm confusing it with allowance. Yeah.
A lot of what we're talking about with these metrics here today are reminding me a little bit of one of Andrew Yang's thing from his campaign of like, I'll be the first president dorky enough to like have a PowerPoint presentation with the American scorecard. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
And it was like, we're going to have like actual metrics other than, I'm off screen. I'm trying to show metrics with my hand. Actual metrics other than GDP and things more like mental health and social well-being. And some of the stuff we were talking about today is like taking that idea to the next level of not just reporting on levels of mental health, college graduation rates or whatever, but assigning dollar values to those things, like creation of art, and actually saying this is, and like treating it like an investment and an ROI and saying, okay, we put, $500 billion into our UBI program and, $1 trillion into our healthcare program. And according to all these metrics, we are reaping $3 trillion in benefits in this way, and people can agree or disagree, but it's like now you've sort of introduced the idea of like, these things all have a value. We can argue about what those values are, but we should account for it. Like, it's not lost money. Like, this money is invested. We're getting things out of it. Like, we're spending it for a reason. We're not just throwing it down a hole.
But the final thing I wanted to cover, and this again ties right into amounts and Comingle and stuff. And I told you before that I really want to focus and bookmark and save these. Anything that pays $200 a month as a pilot can be applicable to like Comingle. And so this is in Tempe, Arizona. I actually used to live there. And this is another one of those school pilots. But instead of high school, this is nearly 70 families in a Tempe elementary school received $200 per month for 3 years as part of a pilot project aimed at improving student outcomes. And these kids will be in third grade. So this is what I kind of think of it as like the South Park kind of pilot, because, the South Park kids start out in third grade and they're in fourth grade now. But like, imagine the South Park kids getting $2 per month.
Man, like when UBI guys or whatever, the Universal Basic guys came out and we were all extremely disappointed.
Yeah.
But if South Park did a UBI episode, I'm pretty sure that would be fire. Like the kids are getting basic income and I'm sure they would do terrible things with it, but it would be awesome. Like I think they would do something good.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much humor potential there, just a giant variety of what all the kids are spending their money on.
And all the grown-ups are like yelling at each other about, misusing their dollars or whatever. Yeah. I would trust those guys to do something good.
Yeah, it would be good. It would be fun. All right, that's everything I wanted to cover. So
that's a lot.
Yeah.
We got through a lot of pilots.
As a recap, the movie recommendation of the day was Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell and Emma Thompson, and actually Dustin Hoffman's in it.
Yeah, movie recommendation for you. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we covered all this evidence because, again, everyone should know that it's just ridiculous to pick out 3 pilots that happened during the pandemic and say basic income doesn't work when just like so many pilots, the results are coming out all the time. Outside the pandemic, past the pandemic, just week after week, more stuff comes out. And it's just positive in all sorts of ways. And yeah, if you understand the details of those, you understand like the details of the pilots and everything, then all this makes sense. Do not fall for the nonsense out there that's just like uplifting 1 or 2 or 3 pilots and saying this doesn't work. Like that's, no. So thank you all for watching and being informed, making sure to learn more about basic income.
Read Scott's article in the description.
Yes. Yeah, I'll put the link to my article and video in the description. So check that out. And yeah, we will see you next time.